Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And for the first time, I think, and basically ever, we're not recording the Friday episode immediately after the Monday episode. We've had a whole day.
Ever? Like ever?
Since we switched to the 2-episode format. I don't think we've split them up like this before.
I don't know.
Regular episodes, yeah, I don't think so.
I date all of the sheets, so I could probably go through all of them
And check.
And check, yeah.
And I keep all of the sheets, even in the old notebooks that we filled up. So there's that. Posterity.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it's technically Tuesday.
Yes, it's Tuesday.
I've already worked 30 hours.
This week.
Yep.
In 2 days.
Yes.
Sounds about right.
And then by the time everyone hears this, GABF will be happening, and I will probably be very drunk.
Yeah, I'll be having a housewarming party that Jeff won't come to.
Nope. I'll be at GABF getting drunk. I'm sure your housewarming party will go after, I don't know, whenever GABF ends on Friday. But
yeah, you'll probably be too drunk to make it.
Yeah. I'm not taking a fucking lift from the convention center as soon as GABF gets out.
I'm sure that'll be super cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, you just got to get Zach to come down and get you.
I need a ride from a friend.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
But sure, probably other people, maybe at GABF, who would want to come to the housewarming party afterwards. I don't
Also
know.
drunk.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get on to the episode in which we are going to be doing another review. We said we were getting back to reviews, and boy, are we. Don't approve, Zach?
I mean, you're technically correct.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of reviews again lately. It's been nice. This week, we are going to be reviewing the new hotness, Everdell. Everdell is a 2018 release from designer James A. Wilson. Artist is Andrew Bosley. Publisher Starling Games. It plays 1 to 4 players and takes 40 to 80 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules rundown for us?
Okay, 40 to 80 minutes. In Everdell, you are trying to build the best city over a year. On your turn, you can place a worker, purchase a card, or recall workers. Workers can get you resources from basic spots and randomized forest spots. You can purchase cards from your hand or a common pool of cards with resources to place into your tableau. Cards can be constructions and critters, and they come in 5 different colors. Certain critters can be built for free if you have the required building. And you can also use workers to claim events requiring different types of cards or specifically named cards, and these will grant you end-of-game points. When you recall, you gain extra workers and can activate green cards again or draw cards from the meadows, depending on the season. At the end of the final season, you will add up points, and whoever has the most wins.
Indeed, that is how you play Everdell. Well, with that, let's jump into some initial thoughts. Zach, what were your initial thoughts going into Everdell?
Remember, there was a big hubbubaloo about the game.
Hubbubaloo?
Yeah.
Hubbaloo?
What?
I'd have to go back to the email.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, at Gen Con, a lot of people were very interested in that game. And Bob bought it, and Jeff and CJ, or CJ bought it, and then
Yes.
Jeff and CJ played it, and they liked it. And so I was interested in trying it out, especially once I got to see the actual board state and how the game actually worked, because I'd heard about the game, but I didn't actually know much about it. But I was pretty interested to try it out.
Right on. Jeff, what about you? What were your initial thoughts? Because you actually got to play it at Gen Con.
Right after Gen Con, drove from Indianapolis to Chicago and then played it.
That's right.
I was wanting to play it at the convention because it seemed interesting. I know it had the huge tree and little critter art and such. And I just was like, hey, you're not going home until we play this. Because then I would have actually played a new game from Gen Con that I can talk about on a podcast.
Right on. My initial thoughts, I'd been hearing some pretty good things about it coming through from Gen Con as well. I had seen it at game night shortly after. I think it was my first game night coming back from my Michigan trip during Gen Con. And I saw it all set up with the big tree and everything. And was like, oh, that looks kind of pretty. Jeff pointed out the little trees issue that we'll talk about. But I thought it looked pretty and interesting. The components were obviously very nice. And then the next time I looked over, like 3 hours later, 4 hours later, they were still playing. And I was like, I don't know. It seemed like it went on for a very long time at game night that night. So going into it, I was a little nervous because I thought it looked nice, but I was also concerned that it would take a long time. So I was a little trepidatious going into my first play. So let's move over to components then, because there are a whole bunch of nice components, and then there's some components that are nice in theory, but terrible in practice. And then there's a bunch of other cards and stuff. So,
all right, that's components. And on to...
well, we can talk about what all of those things were specifically. Geez. So the resources are all different material and shapes and everything. Like the berries, the food is like a little rubbery, like berry.
Squishy.
Yeah, it's kind of squishy rubber. Has a real good tactile kind of feel to it.
Nice. I'm glad it wasn't just like hard plastic like everything else.
Yeah.
Right. The pebbles or stones are like little smooth river stones, like kind of flattened ovals. That's really nice. The
amber
resin material is like little orange gems that you see in a lot of other games. And then the logs, the wood twigs, are just round, tubular sticks of brown that just roll everywhere.
Just perfectly round cylinders.
Yeah,
that are bad.
You're not wrong there.
Yeah, I could see where they thought it'd be good from we're trying to make all our resources thematic. Let's do this. And it was probably really easy to get just a tube of plastic or wood or whatever and chop it up into little pieces there. But maybe trying to use like a caverna wood or something, or a little branch sticking out to keep it from rolling.
Or at the very least, don't have it be completely cylindrical. If it was oval at any point, then it wouldn't continuously roll like it does.
Yes,
or at least not as bad. Like depending on how oval it was, you could probably still get a pretty good roll going.
But it wouldn't be like I wouldn't just like set it on here on the table and then it would just start rolling away.
True.
You have to get other resources to keep it between.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it stays in place.
It's if you only have one, like a lot of inadvertent penises are made.
So yeah, I see what they're going for with those resources, and it worked in every instance except the wood. That is a little bit of a problem. Other components, the card quality seems really good.
Yep.
There's a lot of cards, and they get shoveled a whole lot, and I haven't really noticed any issues with them showing nicks or wear or anything. They've held up after several plays of this game. We're playing Bob's copy, our local friend Bob, who was supposed to join us on the episode, but we could not get a hold of him today.
He disappeared into the ether.
Yeah. He is also a member of the Mile High Dungeon Delvers, so those of you who end up listening to that will get to know Bob very well.
So as of right now, they have no context for him. But
correct.
In the future, if they come back, they will be like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Now we know.
Precisely. But this is his copy. It's been played a bunch. Cards didn't show any wear shuffling. One thing that was showing a little bit of wear is the cardboard tree you put together.
Yeah.
If you don't put it together very carefully, it starts to... the cardboard at the very tips where it's real pointed.
It's also just very tight fit for putting everything in.
Yeah.
And it gives you a good board presence because a lot of everybody I've seen who walk by, they're like, what is this game? Because not only is the board really nicely
colorful
and laid out, spread out, and you have this giant tree that has meeple, and it's not something you see in a normal game. And so you're like, what's going on here?
Yes.
And it works for that, but the cardboard definitely... we were noticing a little bit of fraying, and then also it makes some of those cards actually harder to see because it's closer to head level for some people, and because there's an actual obstacle of half the tree in your way, you can't see certain cards.
Yeah,
which can be a little annoying.
Yep, depending on what kind of table space you have and how you are able to set it up. It can definitely get in the way of the cards on the tree that you were saying, and then just the whole board. If you're sitting at a weird angle to it.
And then also certain people have been prone to knock the tree when they're trying to grab something, causing the meeples that you put on top to just cascade down.
Yeah.
And you're just like, come on, Megan.
Yeah. Megan again? Come on. It's like the fourth time, Megan.
I do like the meeples, though.
Meeples great.
Yeah, each of the colors have their own unique set of meeples. So
all different animal shapes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the blue are
turtles.
turtles. They're one I've seen people post about, like, what the fuck is this? It's a turtle.
Yeah.
It's like Yertle the turtle. There's like a little kangaroos, or squirrels.
There's squirrels.
Squirrels. They look like kangaroos to me.
There's squirrels. There's hedgehogs or porcupines. One of the two. There are rats. I think that's what the black ones are. But it's a solo one. But
yeah,
I mean, realistically,
you could technically use them.
You could just use them because the meeple. There isn't any other color for you besides the meeples.
Yeah.
So
these are just my pieces.
Yeah. And then what was white? I don't remember. Mice or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. But each one is not only is it a different shape, but it's a different color. So that is good. Obviously for colorblind people or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then the art itself is really good.
Yeah, the art is fantastic. It's very woodland critter heavy.
Yeah.
So it's
but
kind
like
of
industrial woodland critter.
Industrious, maybe.
Yeah.
Less industrial.
Yes. That's what I meant.
Yeah, they have jobs and stuff. Like a shopkeeper, or like the postmaster is like a bird.
A pigeon, yeah.
A pigeon, yeah.
But then also one thing that's nice is that, so you have the construction cards and then you have the critter cards. And because the critter cards can be built for free depending if you have the right construction card, like you can see if in the post office, you can see the pigeon in the art of the post office, and you can also see the post office in the art of the pigeon, which is a little, it's a cool little thing that they did.
They tie together very well,
Yes.
which works especially when we get into gameplay, because they tie together from gameplay perspective as well. So,
thing I didn't love, because where you place cards on the tree, like the event cards, they're kind of hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Just because it's flat.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that was better.
Yeah, that's what we were sort of saying earlier.
Oh,
because they're like at like eye level.
They're sort
I
of
thought you were just talking about the meeples.
No, meeples, whatever, it's fine there. Because
Just knocking those over all the time.
Yeah. Well, it was an addition of that, but
Gotcha.
Yeah. It definitely seems like you could just not use the tree and then just like, or only cut out the very top of the tree to put the meeples.
The top of the tree
like,
off.
There would be ways to easily do everything that that the tree does without actually using the tree, and make it easier for some people to see.
Yeah.
So,
from a graphic design perspective, I know one other thing you had mentioned, Jeff, in our most recent play that was a little frustrating for you is the iconography on some of the cards, where they have a space available where you can put a person, but some of them have a little small sign off to the side that say open and have like a gold coin next to them, to where that means that you can go to somebody else's space if it's in their tableau and put a thing there, and they just get 1 point from the supply. But it can be hard, especially later game when people have, a dozen cards spread out in front of them, to see at a glance clearly which cards are action spaces that you can do in other people's areas.
Yeah, especially with like the cards are, I wouldn't say they're necessarily glossy, but it could, with light sources and stuff, it could be a little hard to see. I think it's just something you have to be like, hey, do you have any in spaces? I feel like that's the easiest solution for that, but it's not. It's a little.
That requires you to know the game and know that the in is one of the spaces you can do that.
No,
for.
sorry, I meant open spaces. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any open, or public spaces, or whatever they call it in there?
It might just be the in.
No, it's not just the in. The Scribble Station, the Scribble Stadium, the
expansion stuff.
In the post office and a couple others.
Okay.
Yeah,
but that's more like, I don't know, gameplay.
Well, yes, but that's like
a graphic design.
Another thing. Graphic design. The worker placement spots.
Oh yeah.
On the basic ones, if they are completely filled in, that means that only you can go there. But if they're slightly bigger and have an open spot on the bottom, it means that anybody else can go there as well, or you can go there multiple times. But it can be a little confusing if, like, say a meeple's in a spot where it just covers up that part of the empty line for you. So I feel like if that would have been a slightly different color or something more than just
different paw shape, or
something slightly different,
something more than just an empty bottom.
Yeah.
So
the brown line turning into a vague tan line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers up everything. Components. There's a lot of stuff here, but there's like most of it is just a bunch of cards, and those are fine quality. There's not really a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
So moving on from components, let's talk rules and rules explanation. There weren't any rules that I think of that really stood out as like particularly tricky to understand.
It's I would say it's a lot like most games that are basically mainly card based, it's all about the interactions of the cards where the complexities come from.
Yes.
Because it's just you either use a worker, you buy a card, or you recall your workers.
Yeah.
That's all you can do on your turn.
I think some of the things that could be the easiest to confuse are how the buildings can be used to build the people for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you add in the expansion that we'll talk about a little bit more towards the end of the review, where you can use the legendary things, just you can trade a regular version of the card for the legendary version of it for free as an action. Those can be a little confusing if not clearly laid out during the teach. Otherwise, I think the rules are overall pretty straightforward. Like you just do one of three things on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
You place a meeple, you play a card, or you withdraw your workers.
Well, and not just that too. The different cards, what their abilities are, because there are 5 different colors that they have green ones which are production. So when the thing says activate green, all your green cards, you can activate them. The gray expedition ones are just like one-time use. You put them down, you do their thing, and that's about it. The blue ones are like sort of whenever you do something, you get something else or something similar to that. So it's sort of an ongoing benefit. And then purple ones are end of game.
Yeah.
So it's nice that none of those really get mixed up. So,
yeah, that's true. And they do a good job they have a section in the rule book that shows just the symbols for those colors and kind of outlines that, when you actually activate them and how you activate them.
And then the paw print ones are the ones where you can sort of do an extra action.
Yes.
Well, it gives you an extra action space, whether or not it has open or not. But yes. And also, it's clearly laid out what the cost of each of the creatures are or constructions or anything like that. That's always nice to have.
Yeah, it shows it really clearly on the side of the card.
Very standardized.
Yes.
Yeah, overall the rules are really straightforward. I don't think there's a whole lot to touch on here.
Yeah, the occupation spaces, I think, just learning straight out of the rule book like CJ and I did, were confusing for a few moments, but after that we were like, oh, you just put in the little thing in there, and that means that you can't do it again.
Yeah. So that's a nice, physical thing to help you remember that you can only do it once.
Whether it gets taken away from you later or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah, there are definitely a couple interactive cards which I think we had to look into the FAQ once or twice to be like, well, in this instance, because there's only one card that lets you steal a card from somebody, that they've already played out, and it's certain cards like the storehouse. Do you keep the goods on there, or if I get an in, do I have to keep the meeple on there, or if I've already used the building, or if my opponent has already used the building to build a critter, can I do that, or has that been emptied? So it's just a couple cards where you're just like, I'm not exactly sure, because there's only very few cards that do that. So it's not really in the rules. It was just something I had to go in the FAQ.
Yeah. Oh, and also having a max hand size of 8. It's not like draw as many and then discard down.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
You if you're at 8 cards and you can draw 2, you just don't draw any. You are at your hand size. You cannot go over. It's not like a lot of many other games that you draw above, and then by the end of your turn, you discard down.
Yeah. This one, even if it's something where, if Jeff, you have 8 cards and you play a card where I have to give you a card, it just gets discarded right away, sight unseen. Like I still have to get rid of a card, but you don't get it because your hand is full. You cannot take any more cards until you clear out some of that space. And that's something that we actually played wrong the first time that we played it, because that is kind of an uncommon take on that particular rule. That's a good catch.
Yeah. That's the only other thing I can think of. Otherwise, it was kind of a little bit of here or there, a little like in this one instance, what exactly happens type stuff.
Yeah. Right on. Well, then let's move on from rules and rules explanation and get over into some gameplay discussions. So the game plays, like we said, pretty simple. You do one of 3 things on your turn, which is either playing a meeple, which you have a very limited supply of meeples.
2 to begin with.
2 in the first season, then 3, then 4, then 6. You don't end up with a lot of them. at any point in the game, or play a card. And cards cost resources, so like in that first season, you're going to be lucky to play one card. You'll use your 2 meeples to get some resources, and hopefully that'll be enough to let you build a card.
And then maybe a critter that works off of that one building.
Yeah, if you built a building that then lets you bring a critter in.
Yeah.
And then that's your turn, and then it moves around to the next person. You just keep doing that until eventually you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
At which point you recall, you pull all your workers back, you take your new workers for the end of the season, and you do whatever the end of the season things are for that particular season, whether that's activate your green cards, take cards from the meadow, whatever. And then, when it comes back around to you, you just keep playing your things. You're not waiting for everybody to finish a season.
No. Yeah, because the recalling action or the recalling workers is a personal action. So you are moving to a different, the new season on your own, not necessarily at the same time as other people.
Correct.
And so I think that plays a big part of this game is that if, especially near the end, there could be times where someone's still on summer, but then someone is just they're about to recall for autumn now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it can be interesting trying to plan those things out because your workers stay on the board until you recall. So
you block,
which is something that I'm always a fan of, especially if it's permanent. Like just there's it's.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head, just in my head, and just being like, "Fuck you, fuck you."
Yeah. You're like, can I wait one more? Can I do one more turn of not recalling just so? Because Jeff really needs that space. I just want to play one card. Please let me play a card. So that's where you'll notice. You definitely notice if someone has built a better resource engine than you. If they are taking forever for them to recall, where you're always like, I'm halfway through the final thing and I'm still waiting. You haven't even finished recalling for summer yet.
Yeah. Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are doing better than you.
No, they just have a different.
They have a different Tableau style than you.
Yes.
Yeah, things are going different for them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's running out of resources to be able to take.
Yeah, because even if you have all the resources in the world, you can only have a tableau of 15 cards in the base game. And so if you just build 100, not 100, you build 10 farms, you're like, sweet. That's 10 berries every green.
But that's also only 10 points at the end of the game.
It's only 10 points at the end of the game, and you only have 5 more spaces. So,
and in a 4-player game, the score goes to, I don't know, 50 to 80?
Yes.
60 to 80, somewhere in there?
I would say 50 on the low end, 80 to 90 on the high end.
Yeah.
One of the other interesting kind of gameplay mechanisms in this one is that ability we've touched on a little bit, where when you build a building, you can, for an action, bring in a critter that works in that specific type of building. And some buildings have just one, some have multiple. Some critters can go into any building, especially like the Rugwort, the kind of bad interactive cards. Like one of theirs, it just says any building.
Yeah. And then there's even the Evertree, which is a bitch to build because it's 3 of each of the main resources, whereas most buildings are 1 to 2. But it can house any creature that you want.
Yeah.
So that was really nice.
Yes.
Getting that to the king. Because some of those, they'll go anywhere from one berry to 6 or 7 berries for those big guys.
For the critters.
Yeah, so that's where it's nice to get that building that lets you build, if you get the palace or the Evertree or something like that lets you build the king for free, that's 6 berries you don't have to spend.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
And in each building, they can only do that once. There's a token that you use to cover up.
Yeah.
To show that, hey, this building's already been used to bring somebody in. So you can't get the Evertree and, just constantly bring in any critter over and over. It's a one-time use ability.
And it is a unique construction. I'm not sure if we've talked about unique and common.
No, we didn't mention that yet. Yeah. That there are some... The constructions are unique and common as well as the critters. So unique ones, you build a shopkeeper, that's the only shopkeeper you can have. But if you build a husband or a wife, you can have as many of those as you want because those are common.
Yeah.
But sometimes common constructions can have unique critters and things like that.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was a kind of a clever little mechanism there for being able to. It really gives you an ability to chain things because you could build something and then use it to bring in maybe something else that then activates an ability, which get you some resources so that then you can build something else. And then that can maybe bring something into the board. And so you can kind of do some interesting things in that regard.
Because it's all about getting those. It's once you get those resources, that's how you build everything, and it's harder. It not only is synergy, but it is sort of hard to get resources just from worker spots.
They are the most basic of bitches.
Yes. Now you have the basic ones which run around the river.
Yeah.
And those are like you get some twigs, you get some resin. It's usually just you get one of each.
Desperation spots, really?
To an extent, I would say the three wood is pretty nice.
Yeah.
But like there's only one stone spot on there, and that's it.
For one stone.
Yeah.
That's all you get.
Yeah. But that's where those forest cards come in. You get, depending on how many people you're playing with. So a lot of our games
three
were
or four.
3 or 4 players. You get 4 of the cards out, and they come with they're randomized at the start of the game, and then I want to say there's like 12 of them.
There is a good amount.
At least 10 to 12. So you can get a wide variety of them, and they will do vastly different things. Like you can get 3 berries, or you can draw 2 cards from the meadow and then be able to play one of those at -1 cost, or you can draw up cards, or you can discard cards for resources, or you can use it to copy a spot that somebody's already at, as long as it's not a forest spot. So those add a nice amount of variability in the game. That you're like, okay, this one adds the 3 berries, so I'm gonna assume that Critter's gonna be pretty heavy this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The forest spots are definitely the hot spots for most of the meeple action.
Yeah, and especially like with that 3 players, because at 4 you get 2 spots, but with 3 players, 2 and 3 players, you only get 1 spot. So one person takes it, you're like, a motherfucker, now I have to wait for them to recall, and if they just don't recall, you're just like, God damn it.
Yeah. There is some follow spots on buildings and things like that are copying spots or whatever.
But I would say they're
rare.
few and far between.
Yes. Yep.
Not really a lot of player interaction in the gameplay.
So I
Cool.
was about to bring that up. There is a couple rare instances of negative interaction. It is a couple cards. It's like Rugwort.
Mhm.
There's like 3 of them.
3 different versions of Rugwort.
And then like a fool.
Yeah,
That's
that has negative points
Yes.
on it that you give to someone else. And there's ways to mitigate these because there's a dungeon building that you can throw bad cards into.
Yep.
But there's only like maybe 2 dungeons in the game.
2 or 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not you get
It's not a common card.
The deck of all the cards is fairly thick, I would say, and there is a large variety of these cards. So very rarely will you be able to be like, let me just go dig for that card I need real quick and then find it. It'll either appear on that meadow because that's a common pull, or you just sort of get lucky and you get it drawn for you.
Yeah. Otherwise, the only other real player interaction is there are some cards that let you or require you to give resources to people, and then you get points for it, things like that.
I was gonna
But
say
those are kind of like more of a positive. Where like,
Yeah.
hey, Jeff, you get some berries now that you can do stuff with, and in exchange, I get a bunch of points.
Yeah.
And then there's always in a game like this where there's
Except where I was pitying
Card-
you with all of my
That's
resources.
very true. Also because you're like, fuck Megan and Zach.
Yeah.
You're the only one left, Adrian.
yeah. Well, Adrian, you're clearly not going to win this game.
Yes.
So
It's absolutely what I was doing.
there's
Did
also
you just see a garbage pile right here, and you're like, I'm just gonna throw that into the garbage, and that's just where happened
I
to
was
be
like,
ready.
oh shit, someone lives there?
I'd come scampering out of my dirt hole, my hovel.
Using the rat pieces.
There is also some interaction in, as there is in any game of this type, in blocking and denial by like, oh, you took the card I wanted, damn you. But otherwise, there's really not a lot of interaction with each other's spaces.
I would say it is a tableau building game more than a worker placement.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So if you're going into it looking for a solid worker placement game, might not quite get what you bargained for.
But it
has worker placement in it.
Yeah,
but the tableau building definitely takes center stage.
Whereas like Terraforming Mars, first mentioned, was a tableau building game and also an area board, like area control-esque thing. It's that
territory control.
Territory, yeah. Well, yeah. It's that same sort of thing.
Going back, one of the negative things that has to do with that place and then withdraw mechanic in it.
Oh yes,
is that the game can end up with some downtime for players at the end of the game where you might finish. In your case, the one time, Zach, like 15, 20 minutes before the rest of the game.
15, 20 minutes before everybody else.
Did you win?
No.
Okay.
I barely got third.
All right.
Yeah.
But I believe Bob had that happen to him once, and he only lost by 1 point.
Yeah. So you can have that, which is kind of an unfortunate situation where one person finishes up and then doesn't have anything to do while everybody else continues taking their turns. Also, your pieces stay on the board at the end in that case. So like you finish early and everybody has to take the next 7 rounds with your pieces blocking everything.
So that's where you're like, you know, you can take longer to do the things you want, but then you have the worker placement spots. The good ones are probably going to be blocked by the time you can realistically use them. So it's sort of a give and take or a risk reward in that way. But also something else you have to use the workers for is the events, which there's 2 different types. There's the basic events, which are just like you need 3 of the paws, 3 of the scrolls, 4 of the green, and it's 4 green because there's a lot more green than
green is by far the most common card color.
And then 3 of the expedition ones, and you have to place your worker on it, so you have to be the first one to actually be able to claim it. Because there's been a lot of times where it's like I place down that third, or it's like in order to get that third worker or the third paw piece, I have to place my last worker to get a resource. Destinations, okay. Yes. I have to place my last worker to be able to get something, and it's like, how long do I let this season go out? Can I recall? I mean, I feel like I'm going to be losing some time doing that, but can I pull it out before anybody else gets to it before me?
Can I do shit that's better for me before I need to do that?
Yes. And then once somebody has claimed that, nobody else gets it.
Right.
Because it's for cardboard pieces that you just basically you bring it towards your tableau and you're like, all right, this one's mine now. Your worker stays on there until you recall it. Now there are the special events, which are on top of the tree. Those are the ones that we said were sort of hard to read because they actually have text on them.
And I don't think I've gotten a single one of those in any of my plays.
I do not think you have. And those usually require a construction and a critter, and they are not tied together. So it's not going to be like the inn and the innkeeper.
Right.
It's like the inn and the bard.
The example here is the woodcarver and the chapel for pristine chapel ceilings.
Yeah.
And then they all have
some sort of requirement on them.
Yeah.
That is usually like spending goods or spending cards or something like that. And that'll get you up to 6 points for the most part, instead of the basic events just plus 3 points.
Yeah. And
so they're harder to get.
But they usually interact with that construction or character in some fashion that give you even more shit.
Like there's the monastery one where it's like for every worker you have in the monastery, you get an extra 3 points. And that means that worker is no longer worth 4 points. He's worth 7 points.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
Usually get like a one-time bonus, like the draw a card, receive a good for each money that was on there in the first place or something like that.
Yeah, something. And there are a couple that are worth less points, but they let you do something. Like one of them was you just get 3 points, but you get to activate green production again, which
is nice.
Because you only get to technically do that 2 extra times.
Right.
So getting a third one is pretty big.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
There's 16 of those.
There's 16 of those, and you only play with 4. And when someone's claimed them, like it doesn't get refilled. It's just that's it. You're playing with those 4 for the game.
And there is 11 different forest cards.
Okay, 11. I said 10 to 12. I was right. I was
you were almost there.
I was covering the bases.
So close.
Yeah.
Yeah. The game definitely comes down to that cards you get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cards, and hopefully you get the right ones.
Yeah, you get the right ones. But one thing that's nice is that I've seen in a variety of games, the people that have won, it's either because they've invested heavily in purple cards, or they've gotten a lot of events, or they've gotten a lot of victory point card or victory tokens, or that they have done a little bit in all of those. So I like how it's not like you have to specifically do one thing, but you want to do a lot, either a lot of one thing or a decent amount in a bunch of things.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to just like you need to have some kind of focus.
Yes. Whether it's a specific focus or a general focus, you need a focus.
It's I don't know how to quite phrase what I want to say about it.
If you get stuck trying to get that one synergy that's going to be really good, you're going to be losing out big time.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to be waiting for that card that may never come.
Yeah, this is not a game for at the start of you're like, I'm going to do this long-term strategy
Ooh.
And I'm just
Like-
gonna wait for the cards to come that'll let me do that. You're gonna lose if you do that unless you are super lucky.
Like I had that really good historian,
Yeah.
like legendary historian guy,
Mhm.
and I was waiting for a historian to come out, and I was like, well, that might never happen. I'm just going to spend the money now and
Yeah.
get him out there.
Exactly,
Because he has
yes.
a really good benefit that's going to help me every turn.
Yeah.
Even though getting him out there is the least, with just paying 4 berries is the least efficient way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be able to get the
Free.
the construction that lets you get you the free critter, but then that means you have to have both those cards. And the worst, I would say one of the worst things you can do in this game is because like I was saying, the meadow cards, it's 8 cards that anybody can buy from. If you are planning multiple turns around trying to buy 1 card from the meadow, anybody else can buy that card before you.
Yeah.
And so I believe that happened multiple times for you, Adrian,
Well,
or something similar to that where
Yeah.
you kept getting...
I would routinely find myself a turn behind. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have enough to buy it. And it was like, well, I don't think anybody's going to want that. So maybe I'll be okay. I'll get my resources for
Yeah.
it. And then you'd come along and buy it. It was almost always you. There was at least a couple times where you bought it. And then even Jeff, before I could be like, oh, fuck you, Jeff would be like, oh, fuck you. And it was like, well, I definitely wasn't getting
Yeah,
it.
no.
There are times like you'll have certain cards that you really need for what you have. Like
Mhm.
even if you're trying to play fairly tactical and change on the fly based
Yeah.
on what's coming around, that you're just not in a position to actually
No.
do. Like I had that at one point. I think it was like the drifter card or something where it lets you discard a bunch of cards to get a bunch of resources. Well, I didn't have any cards. So I was like, I could take that now, but it's just a waste. It does nothing. And I had like the building to move it in for free. So I didn't even need the resources to get the card. It was more, I was trying to get cards so that
Mhm.
when I took it, I could actually use its ability and not have it just be a wasted play. And by the time I got a couple cards, like I wasn't even trying to max out the 5. I just wanted
Yeah.
to have like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I had enough and I was like, sweet, I'm going to get it this round. And you were like, no, you're not.
No, I'm getting that. What I think I was on that one too is that the post office, I had used the post office the turn before that, which is you hand out 2 cards and then you can draw up to your max. And so it was like, oh, I have 8 cards now. And I'm like, man, a bunch of these are useless. Oh, here's that drifter because you get to discard cards and gives you points. And it's like, well, I'll take 5 points. Thank you very much.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
You might be trying to play tactical and make decisions based on what's available and still just not really be able to do much
Yeah.
because of where you are in turn order
Mhm.
or what cards you have
Yeah.
available.
Oh no, yeah, because this is definitely a game that if someone just it sucks, but because it's all card based, sometimes someone is just going to have a better hand of cards that work amazingly well. Like when we were playing with Bob, and he was able to build a farm that he had in his hand, but his legendary, which we can discuss in a little bit,
Yeah.
was an upgraded farm. So he was able to just upgrade that one, and so not even on his first pull, he was able to get, or his first recall, he was able to get 2 of any resource, and that was like, are you fucking kidding me, Bob?
Yeah.
And then I believe someone had a recall without getting a single card down because they're just like, I don't have any.
I've had to have that happen.
Yeah.
And it just sucks.
Yeah.
All the cards I got dealt were really high cost
Mhm.
cards, and the things that were out there were things that I couldn't get. Like I was 4th in turn order,
Yep.
and you guys took all the resources that were
Mhm.
for what's out on the tableau. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not doing much.
Yeah. But what's funny is that even though Bob got that big step up in the beginning, everybody, including him, got creamed by Megan on that game.
Oh yeah.
But because
Her
she,
first time playing out of nowhere.
yeah, and she was able to get 90. I think she got 90 or almost 100 points. So even though he had that big head up, she was able to get a bunch of cards that worked really. Like she was able to get a bunch of unique critters, and then she had the building that gave her points.
2 points per
Yeah,
unit.
because she had an upgraded one. So yeah.
Funny side note, she's been frustrated for a while. Like basically she's felt like since she went to Saudi for a year and didn't play games, like she got left in the dust, and she's been struggling to get back to winning a lot or feeling like she's competitive.
Yeah.
And so she was like, for the next hour after you guys left that night, she was like, hey hon, do you remember that game where I beat you so bad on my first ever play and it wasn't your first play? Do you remember that? I was like, yes, I remember an hour ago.
Nice.
Yeah, she was very, very excited about that win. I was quite happy for her.
Nice. Well, I'm glad I was able to win the next one. To just be like,
Cut the legs right
cut
back
the
out
legs
from
right
under.
back out. Oh, like I did in Brass.
Yes, yes, precisely. Anyway, yeah, but I think that some of that can also be very frustrating too. What you were saying there with like Bob, you could be in a position like Bob where you're getting a bunch of resources and you feel like things are going well, and then somebody else just doing something completely different that you have no control over creams you out of nowhere, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Like, sorry, your thing that you did really well in this case just wasn't good enough, and that kind of sucks. If you're the type who plays games to win. If you're just playing games to have fun and, do your thing, then that's not nearly as big of an issue. But like when you feel like you've played a game really well and you get raffle stomped, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, well, like even though he had a good synergy in the beginning, she was able to consistently, like, she then had that strat, like then she had a decent synergy that she was then able to do that focus that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Be like, she's like, oh, I have these unique ones. I'm going to get as many great unique ones as I can. And she was able to do it. And
I think it took her a little while to get there.
Yes.
But then she was like, oh, wait, like, I think she was in a spot where she felt like she was getting creamed early because Bob was doing so well. I think we all thought Bob was just going to run away with that one.
But I think that's one of the things in this game is that it's mainly because he had a whole bunch of resources. And like we were saying, having a bunch of resources doesn't mean shit if you can't get the cards to take advantage of it.
Turn them into points.
Yeah, Jeff had, I want to say, 7 of each resource at the end of the game.
It was very close to that. I found my way into some of those friendly dump resources on other people for points cards and did a bunch of those, but built a castle.
Yeah,
and then got the castle resources back, and then I did have quite the resource pool.
But at the end, you only ended up getting 3rd. So even if having all the resources, you didn't have any endgame cards, right?
I did. I had the castle before the common constructions, and then I had 4 different common constructions. I could have just dumped on common constructions, but it's still only like 1 point per common construction.
And then also, I'm assuming you got that one sort of fairly late, and because of that, you didn't have enough space. Like you couldn't replace many of those early things that you bought.
No,
exactly. So that's like every time you buy something cheap, you're like, okay, I got this thing for cheap.
But it's mainly I bought all the cheap stuff late.
Yeah,
because it synergized with the castle.
Right. But you had a lot. It was helping you get a lot of those resources, but they weren't getting you a lot of end game points otherwise.
No, mainly because I wasn't getting the cards I needed to do what I wanted.
Yep,
needed more cards.
Did we want to talk about either of the 2 expansions that it comes with?
Yeah, I think we kind of wrapped up most there's to say about gameplay for the base game, so we can talk about the expansions that they come in the box even on the regular retail one, right? Or was it just the collector's edition that included them?
I think the collector's edition includes the Legends expansion, which added the legendaries, but I believe the extra ones that just came in the box.
So I think the collector's edition just had the slip sheet and the gold coins, metal coins.
Well, it's on here. It's saying that it came with. Let me double check. No, it says here the collector's edition includes the standard edition plus the Legends expansion, the extra cards, and then
the 30 metal point tokens, the 6 wooden rat figures.
Yeah.
The 20 wooden occupied tokens, and then an 8-sided die for the solo.
Yeah.
So the solo's only
and the giant box sleeve.
Solo's
pretty art.
Solo's only in the collector's edition then?
Apparently, yes.
Okay. I guess you need all the rat figures for that.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like the extra cards and the Legends expansion was a collector's only.
Yes.
Yeah, so you might not, depending on what edition you end up getting, might not have a chance to get some of those. But like the Kickstarter that's going on right now, which we haven't really mentioned, it was on the Wednesday episode, there is a Kickstarter for the expansion, and you can get the collector's edition through that Kickstarter for...
It is the only edition you can get through that Kickstarter.
Yeah. So that would have all of these expansions in them.
Yes.
The more cards are basically just that. They're more cards. Some of them add a little bit more interactivity or a little bit more synergy. Stuff like the Skirble.
Yeah, because you have the Skirble players.
Yeah.
Skirble champions that you get 2 extra points for every Skirble champion that you have, and they get to share the same space.
Yeah, so you can make a big pile of cards that will be a bunch of points.
So just one is just worth 2 points on its own, but then you get 2 of them, not only are they worth 2 points each, they're now worth an additional 2 points each because of the scribble. So now it's 8 points for 2 of them, and then it is 18 points. I want to say if you get 3,
something like that. Yeah, it goes up real quick.
Yeah, or 24 even. Yeah, it can
2 points for each other
It'd be
Scrubble
24, 'cause
champion
they'd be-
in your city.
They basically, for each one you add, their value goes up significantly.
Mhm.
Yeah, for each.
Yeah.
And then there were 2
or
points.
it's 18. Yeah.
Then they're just worth 2 points each.
Exactly. So those are pretty nice. And then there is the carnival and the fool. I think that's
the fool adds
Carnival
a
and
bit
the
of.
Juggler.
Okay, well,
the Fool's in the base
Fairgrounds. Okay, yeah.
game, I thought.
Oh yeah, I think he has the fairgrounds.
Okay. So yeah, the juggler gives you a push your luck element. You can spend wood to just get points, or you can spend less wood.
Pay a wood to reveal a card,
Yeah.
and you can do it up to
6 times.
as many times
Oh,
as you
yeah.
want.
But then if you get cards that are worth value of 6 or more combined, then you get
6 points.
6 points. I've never seen that work out for somebody. They're always just like,
If I ever found that goddamn juggler,
I know.
I'm sure I would have been fantastic.
yeah, you would have. You'd have been like, fucking wood.
Wood, dump, dump, dump.
And so then the other one is the Legends expansion that adds legendaries, which now at the start of the game, everybody gets 1 legendary critter and 1 legendary construction.
Yeah, and there's 5 of each possible. So each game there will be 1 set, 1 building, and 1
Mhm.
critter that is not used. The legendaries are basically an advanced version of a unique building or unique critter
Mm-hmm.
that just do whatever that does
Better.
better.
So like the inn, the regular inn is you put a worker on there and it's you can build a critter or a construction in a meadow for 3 less goods. The super inn, I forget what it was called.
The green acorn.
Yes. You can put a worker there and it's just you build a critter or construction for -4 costs. So not only is it 1 more discount, it's also a card from your hand.
Yeah.
They are significantly more expensive. The regular inn is 2 wood
Mhm.
and a resin, and the green acorn is 3 wood and 3 resin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also
aren't-
worth double the points.
Yeah.
4
some
points at the end of the game.
aren't worth that much more. Like the upgraded version of the king. I can't remember.
Queen. Or is there an
there's one
upgraded
for
king
the
too?
Yes, there
Oh,
is.
okay.
He's only 1 food more than the king.
But that's also because the king's worth a lot.
Yeah.
So he's 6, and so that one's 7, and it's like, yeah, that would be ridiculous if you're like you have to pay 12 for this guy or whatever. So because it's already high value, whereas like the super crane is instead of 1 stone, it's just 2 stone.
Yeah.
Which is it's twice as much, but it's just 2 resources.
2 stone's not that much.
So,
Although stone is the hardest resource to get.
Yeah, so-
But there are so many, like, get a resource of your choice benefits
Yeah.
in this game, which are useful.
mhm. Especially if the right forest cards come out.
indeed.
The legendaries are good.
Yeah. What did you I know, did you have a problem with them? The legendaries? I don't remember. Oh, also one last thing about them is that they add an extra slot. So really it's like they're not taking up a spot. So when you have both of yours built, you can do 17 cards instead
Yeah.
of 15.
Unless you have like the one that goes like
Underneath.
there's 2 of them that go under other cards.
Yeah.
And then those ones basically just give you an extra slot without even taking a
Mhm.
slot themselves. So those ones are really
Yeah.
powerful. Yes. I ultimately, over the course of playing with them, I don't think they add enough to justify how redonkulously unbalanced it can be if one person gets a legendary critter and construction that both work together versus one person getting 2 that aren't related at all and don't do anything remotely in the same area of what you might be trying to do long term. Yeah, I think it's even more randomness that can drastically affect this game that's not needed. But I mean, well, we'll
In a
see when
way-
we get to final
But
thoughts.
in a way it also it does give you a thing to try and work towards at least.
Kind of, but
I mean,
those are things that might not ever work out for you.
that's
Like,
true.
in the last game we played, my construction, I don't remember, it was the one that like gives you extra points for any event you get. I got 1 event the entire game, like because just nothing else worked for me. And it's like, well, why fucking bother? Like that getting that did nothing for it.
Versus so that's the king that for extra events.
Super King.
Versus the queen that you get to put a worker down and you can just take an event. I know that one really pissed you off.
Oh my, yeah, because that one's stupid powerful. That one is ridiculously
That's-
powerful.
That's also the one. That's when I had that one.
Achievements.
I did lose that game. So I just want to say that it didn't. No, it's it would have been a lot more powerful had 2 out of the 4 special events not been that they required. It was the cemetery and the monastery one, so you needed to actually have the buildings
to get the actual benefit.
Yes, because the space on the Super Queen is that you get to take an event even if you don't qualify. Like you can't even get the prerequisites for it. But on those, it was like you get extra points for cemetery or monastery, and it's like, well, having this does mean nothing because I don't have those things.
Yeah.
So it can be super powerful if that's all you go for. But in that instance, it wasn't as crazy as it could have been.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's still an incredibly powerful card.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Whereas some of the other ones, not as powerful or more specifically powerful. Like, they're good in certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
That one is that one's going to be good more times than it's not, by far, I feel. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's the expansions that come in the box. We don't know much about the new Kickstarter expansion. We haven't played it, so we're not really going to address that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a new second printing rulebook and new twigs.
Yes. Yeah, they are adding some irregularities to the twigs so they don't just take off.
And more metal coins if you want more metal coins, if you can run out of metal coins, which we did.
Yes. Yes. Amazingly enough.
Yeah, a lot. There were definitely some games where I want to say we used 10 coins in the entire game. This other one, I had 8. Megan had like 14. You had 20 something.
I had
1.
I needed.
We were talking about people actually playing the game.
I had 2.
The actual
competitive.
The competitive people.
I had 30, but I had to share.
Yes, you
and
did.
use other components to try and count how many coins I
was just like, here's a plastic bag. That's worth 10. But that's the only game where it's been an issue at all.
Yes.
So,
but it is an add-on on the Kickstarter, so I assume it's enough of an issue to where they're like, hey, here's some more.
Yeah.
I think it's 15 coins, I think, total that come with it.
In the base game or the
collector's edition?
The collector's edition. Yeah. I thought it was 30. 30 metal coins.
Okay.
Tokens.
Maybe it's that you can buy 15 more.
And I think one of it is that it's 1 point and then 3 points. If they'd have been 5 points, I don't think it'd be an issue.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up gameplay discussions. We can move on into some final thoughts. Zach, what are your final thoughts on Everdell?
My final thoughts are, I think as a presentation, the game is great. I think it has a really great board presence. From experience, it constantly pulls people in to be like, ooh, what is this game? Or, oh, it's this game, and like people are gawking over how it actually looks. I like it as a tableau building game and I really like the combos you can get from specific cards. I do like the worker placement, or specifically the fact that until you pull them back, they're just blocking until, whenever you want to pull them back. And so I always appreciate the fact that's only on you. That is your personal turn timer or whatever you want to call it versus the entire game. I really like the art. And I was okay with the fact that some people's turns can end earlier. It happened in the best instance of it was at our game night. So I was just like, oh, I'm done. All right, I'm going to count up my points. I have this many. I'm going to go do something else. Let me know if I won or not. Yeah. But playing with multiple people and it's like the second out of 4 games you want to do, I can see it be a problem for some people. But I just viewed it the same as in Terraforming Mars, where there are some people that are just like, they have a really good...
You have to put all your worker placements on the worker placement slots.
Exactly, yes. Where they're like, it's like, all right, are you guys done? Now I still have to do 15 more things over here.
But those usually go really quick. By the time it gets down to one person just blasting out actions in Terraforming Mars, that doesn't take long. Because it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about which 2 I do in what order. I'm just going to race through these.
Or it's the one... Well, that was a extreme example, but there have been times where it's like, okay, I'm done, and there are 2 or 3 people still having 5 or so more actions they have to do each.
I still think that's a pretty extreme. I've very rarely seen Terraforming Mars where one person is hard passed and there's multiple people doing 5 more turns.
I've seen it fairly enough that it, just like here, we've had it where it was, for the most, I've seen it where it ended all roughly around the same time, or one person is 15 to 20 minutes, or but like I said, that doesn't bother me. That didn't bother me as much. But I think this, whether or not you're going to like the game, really comes down. You are a slave to the card draw, because and that's where being first player in this game sucks.
Yeah,
because you only get 4 cards, and fourth person gets 8 cards. They get twice as many cards, so you have a much wider.
You get 5 cards. 5.
No, that's what I meant. 5.
So it's
5
not quite twice as
it's
many,
not quite
but
as
close.
But you definitely feel that, especially with the spots where you can discard cards to just get 3 of any resource, or get up to 3 cards to get up to 3 resources, and it's like, well, now we both have 5 cards, except I have 3 resources.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bother me, which shouldn't come as a surprise, but I can totally understand someone not liking this game because they just think the card draw is too random, because it's if you get lucky and you get this insane synergy, you're going to do better than someone who, even if they're just as good as gamer as you, they just don't get any cards that work together. They only get construction, or they only get critters. So yeah, I really like it, but I can understand that this game is random from the card because of the card draw. And if that's not your thing, this game is not going to be for you.
Right on. For me, as Zach just said, this game is not for me. I had an okay time with my first play of Everdell. There was enough
You
there.
Great Western Trailed it?
Yeah. Yeah. To the nth degree.
Yeah.
It was like an exaggerated Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail I still have hope for. I have no hope for Everdell. I enjoyed my first play of it well enough that I was willing to play it a few more times. I thought there were some interesting things there that I want to check out. I do think they do a good job. I like the way the buildings and critters interact, where you can use the building to bring the critter in. It's too bad that it's just so fucking unreliable about when or if that critter will ever show up for you. So you can't count on building a building and then later getting that critter, or vice versa. You get that critter and you hope to get the building so you can chain that into getting that critter out of your hand and onto your board, and it just never happens. Meanwhile, it's happening like fucking gangbusters for somebody across the table, and there's nothing you can do to stop them or help you, and it just becomes so mind-numbingly infuriating. I think that the push-pull kind of worker placement aspect is pretty cool. I do see why Jeff put this on his list for worker placement games, because it does do some interesting things with the worker placement. I like that there's a set number of workers that everybody's going to get to by the end of the game. But unlike in a lot of worker placements where it's a race to get, like, you getting workers early is almost always better in most worker placement games. In this one, it can actually be a sign that you're fucking up, that you're not doing shit right.
Yeah. Do you need more workers to actually get resources? Here you go.
Yeah. Well, and especially when you pull back and you're the first to pull back. So now you've got all these workers, but everybody else still has theirs on the board, hogging up all the spots where you want to put so now you're stalling at the start of your turn, hoping they pull back, and then they don't, and then they don't, and then they don't. And then it's like, well, I guess I've done everything I can without placing workers, so I guess I'll go get 2 wood instead of 3 wood, or I'll go do some other less useful action.
Yeah.
Which again gets really, really fucking frustrating. I think that, especially with the major events and how dependent they are on getting 2 completely unrelated random cards, and what a crapshoot that is, whether you get, like Jeff said, he's never, ever gotten one of those. Just too much in this game comes down to blind fucking luck that you can't really do much about. Somebody can get a card where they get the ability to give away 2 cards, discard as many as they want, and draw back to 8. And you're sitting there with 3 cards in your hand, like desperate to get more, and the only action space lets you draw 1 card, 2 cards at a time. And so it's like, okay, I waste an entire worker, but there's not many of these to draw 2 cards. Oh, I drew 2 cards that still don't help, and it's just a wasted turn.
Yeah, to be fair, at least that post office is an open one, and it's but it's open, so you could use it, but because it's on the other side of the board and it's sort of hard to see, you don't know.
Which goes into my other problem with this. I can see where it's like it. You build an awesome tableau by the end of the game. Like even in my worst game of it, where I was doing the worst, I still maxed out. Like, it's not hard to do. It seemed like it is at the start of the game. Like, you do that first recall and you maybe don't have anything, and you're like, there's only 2 more seasons for me to recall. How the fuck am I going to get all these buildings? Well, you're probably going to get them all out, or at least get close enough that you're going to be comfortable with it. But once everybody's done that, unless like you have a photographic memory of what everybody has, or you spend a lot of time on your turn poring over, or between your turns poring over what exactly everyone else has, or just constantly asking, then you're going to miss things. You're going to have a card that lets you copy an opponent's ability, and you're going to copy one ability, and then, just late enough to say, oh, no, you can't go back. Be like, oh, you should have totally copied that one. It's this one, but better. And so...
that stank is because I did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, real bad.
Yeah.
It's just... For me, Everdell feels like what I see happening more and more. It's like it's the exaggerated example version of what I see being a trend I don't personally like in board gaming, towards interesting mechanics just kind of haphazardly thrown together in a way that doesn't necessarily work, and then prettied the shit up with beautiful art and fancy components. Like Zach said, it gets a ton of attention on the table, but I think from a gameplay perspective, it is mediocre at best. I did not care for Everdell. That's all for me. Jeff, end on a high note.
Nope. Everdell's good, but I think it's not quite there. I like playing it. I like the tableau building. I like the pieces. It definitely has really good art, but like Adrian just said, it sort of just brightens all of the things, but the meat of the game is the cards, and the cards, how they come out, is too random to be super great. I think you guys have pretty much covered everything else that I would possibly say about this game, because you went on for at least 10 minutes. And I don't think I have anything else useful to add, except there is a 16-page FAQ for this game.
Jesus Christ.
And there are a ton of files on BGG, which I am interested in trying. There is a variant where you actually split the deck into like a winter, spring, and a summer, fall, autumn.
Where you
can it put like loads all the purple into the end stuff, and so you kind of only see certain things at the beginning of the game. But as soon as someone like switches over into summer, like all the spring cards go, and then you kind of do another like setup where it's like 5, 6, 7, 8 cards go out or something like that. Of the like winter, but hand limits apply. Someone came up with a variant for that, and the creator was like, "Ooh, that looks nice." So it's not an official variant yet, but I would be interested in trying that.
I also remember you mentioning that you would want like a critter deck and a construction deck.
Yeah, so you have that 8-card meadow. Maybe have one row of 4 and one row of 4 for critters and construction, so there's a more even balance. And at the start of the game, maybe you choose how you want it. So like where I'm the first player and I'm getting 5, maybe I take 3 constructions and 2 critters. And if you're last player and you're getting 8, maybe you take 4 and 4, or 5 and 3 or something.
And with this variant that someone came up, there is also a D8 random resources that you begin with. And it's like different sets of resources.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, you don't get D8 resources, like 1 to 8 resources. You roll a D8, and then it's 3.
Like if you'd get a berry, a wood, and a resin, or like a stone and 2 berries or something like that.
It's like a stone and a wood, or it's basically sets of 3.
Right,
like
yeah.
3 wood, 2 wood, and a resin, 1 wood and 2 resin, etc.
Yeah.
That would get me interested more in playing, but also there's a variant. Someone put a file in to replace the tree, and it's just like the slots and stuff on a flat piece.
No, that would make sense. Yeah. No. Yeah.
All of those things we complained about, people that have been passionate about this game have already crafted and thrown up on BGG.
And I would definitely be interested on trying those too, because even it seemed like I was the most positive.
Right. I was surprised.
I was still like, the cards are gonna determine 80% of how you do in the game. So
and I'm not sure anyone really said this except you at the beginning of the rules. It does go a bit long.
Yes.
You kind of rolled your eyes at the 40 to 80 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. At game nights, we stopped at like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing with people who have played the game long enough, or
it can go quicker because you know the cards.
You know the cards. You can still miss some things, but that's not. I wouldn't necessarily say that's your fault.
Yeah.
But when you're playing with new people, there are so many. Not only do you can have 16 choices for cards on your turn, and so that can be overwhelming.
Daunting. Yeah.
Yes.
I do also have to say I like it at all player counts. I've played it at all player counts. I have not had any problems with any of them.
I would probably steer away from 4 myself.
It goes a little long, but that's only but it's a fine game at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like how it balances the amount of spots you have for the player count.
Yes, I would agree with that too.
across all.
Yeah, I know with
plugins.
2 players, it took us just under an hour, and I was like, oh, this is a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But that's still more than the fucking 20 minutes per player.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely more than 20 minutes a player. The comment about the tree and the file for like replacing the tree reminds me again. The other thing that bothers me about this is I'm all for.
oh, that 100%. Yeah, that would be.
Oh yeah, that is really nice. I am all for good art and good components in games. As much as I will still love the shit out of an 18XX with no
Choo-choo.
art and not top of the line components. I'm all for beautiful art and great components. I draw the line when they start to interfere with the gameplay itself.
Yeah, no, I can I agree. I can agree with that. Even as someone who likes that stuff so much more, the tree was starting to get annoying.
Yeah. The tree,
Hang on, let me
the
check around the
twigs.
side of the tree
Yeah.
so I can see what those other events are.
Exactly.
Yeah, constantly read me those things on the other side of the tree every time it's my turn.
Yeah.
And then let me look around for the board for 10 minutes to make sure like none of you have those too, so I know if I need to claim it or go another turn.
Yeah.
How many greens do you guys have?
Yeah. And so really the game sort of rewards people that like memorize things better than others, which
Yeah.
I'm not that big a fan of,
No.
because like
Yeah, so solid average of mediocre, maybe slightly better. Fine, I think Jeff said.
he
Which
said, yeah,
damning with faint praise right there. It's a fine game.
yeah. I would say as much as you disliked it. Well, did you really dislike it? Or
Oh yeah,
okay,
I rated this pretty low.
really? What'd you rate it?
I have this rated. I currently have it a 3.
Okay,
Bad.
Ooh.
Likely won't play this again. I have zero desire to play Everdell again.
no, yeah, I
Uh,
know you don't have that. So
which we got home from the last play, which I think was pretty clear that I was not going to review the game positively after
Mhm.
that last play. And Megan was immediately like,
oh.
would you maybe want to play a 2-player game? It's like, if you really want to,
And it's
because
only-
I do like
yeah.
playing games with you, and it will probably take less than an hour, then
Yeah.
yes, I will play a 2-player game with you.
Yeah,
But I personally don't have any desire to play Everdell
Gotcha.
again.
so yeah, you definitely disliked it more than I liked it.
Yes.
So definitely like right around wherever for podcast opinion was fine to.
Yeah. If after that review you're desperate to buy the game, you can go jump online. It is available on Amazon and eBay for $40 to $60-ish. It is on the way everywhere else for low 40s. And then, as we mentioned on Wednesday's episode, and I think at least one point in this episode, there is currently a Kickstarter up for the expansion where you can pick up the base game if that interests you.
There is a pledge level for just the base game in
Yeah.
there.
We didn't have any emails about Everdell, but we did have a comment over on the BGG Guild. Zach, do you have that pulled up and ready to go?
Yes, we have one comment from Bryant. I have played Everdell once. The buzz and hype has taken me a little by surprise. The art's definitely great. However, I came away thinking that it would be less and less interesting with further plays. To me, it was all about the combos, but they seem so specific with the various critters matching up with a specific location, etc. It became quite luck-based to me, depending on what you drew off the top of the deck. The worker placement actions didn't seem all that interesting, just pretty basic for worker placement. Turns could be lengthy towards the end, as some critters have abilities to duplicate powers located on the tableau of other players. It can take a while to look over the options in that case, since the cards have small text and you have to get up to read everyone's cards. Edit 914. I played again last night with 4 players. We discussed the frustration of how you are living off the top of deck draws. You can... We discussed the frustration of how you are living off the top deck draws. You can do the best you have with what you draw, but still finish well behind. Too much of a luck factor, even though there are several ways to draw more cards.
Yep. Basically, all of my frustrations with the game summed up. Yeah, that's it for listener feedback, which I think pretty much brings the entire review here to a close. If you want to get a hold of us, you can always email us.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram /MileHighGameGuys. We have that Board Game Geek Guild number 2731, where we put up threads for all of the Friday episodes we do, the discussions and reviews and whatnot. And then you can always get a hold of us over on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach _MHGG.
And I'm Jeff _MHGG.
on our website, milehighgameguys.com. You can check out show notes with links to the things we talk about on the show, as well as Slack channel link there where you can come join the Slack. Where there's all kinds of conversations from cricket and rugby
to catching up, Jeff, on very old things.
Yeah, clearly. Also, a good places to eat in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Regularly.
Yeah. Fairly recently, we had two of our fans who got to know each other from Slack, realized they both live pretty close to each other, and they met up and went to one of them went to the other's game day with a bunch of their coworkers and friends and had a good time. So we're officially bringing people together outside of Denver. We've been doing it in Denver for like 5 fucking years with our game night.
Yeah.
Now we're doing it everywhere else
Getting
too.
far closer to 6.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely join the Slack channel if you want to, get on there and be chatty Cathys and interact with all of us. It's a bunch of fun. Yeah. That's pretty much all of that. Until next time, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Kangaroo Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.